Hello, hello. How's it going? And welcome to the newest episode of Borderline Podcast Disorder. Um, I'm excited for this episode with Kimia. It was a wonderful chat that we had, and I am sure you're gonna enjoy it. It was filled with a lot of interesting things and very I don't know. I remember as I was listening while putting it all together, it just reminded me of how happy um I felt after the recording was over. Funnily enough, although we stopped recording at 1 hour and 15 minutes, um, we ended up um, speaking on the phone for a while after that, just because there were so many other things that we, although we didn't cover in a podcast, it was just nice to catch up on. But yeah, that's that. And then on the other news, it's been a mad week. I don't know if it's necessarily been if the week was mad, but or it's just a lot happened, or I was telling you before about how I was struggling with a few things. You got to listen to the to the previous episodes if you want to know the full story. But just an update on that is that I had some terrible stomach problems, and it kind of affected my because of my digestive system. Um, it affected me a lot. I was tired. I was feeling fatigued, and I ended up having to take some time and be at home this week. But then on the other hand, I've managed to see a GP. Only got some medication on Friday to help me, and yeah, it turns out that it's all um, stress induced. Yeah, I had some sort of like stress induced constipation, which you know it sounds weird, but it's been going on. I've only realizing it's kind of like built up for about a month to get to the point where I was just my stomach was killing me. I I couldn't go, to the toilet properly, and oh man. Besides of that, my back was hurting a lot. My muscles, I felt very sore, like as if I had like a workout every day, and I was sweating so much. And yeah, and I think kind of like I think throughout the weeks I just tried to battle it one thing at a time. And then my partner told me that apparently I was like grinding my teeth a lot during sleep, and I kind of realized, because I not realized the grinding, but I realized there was a lot going on, because I kept biting the inside of my mouth, and I woke up with like bleeds some mornings, or in so much pain, even that I found it difficult to speak, because I just have those almost like scars, like healing around my mouth, on the inside of my mouth, and they just hurt so much. And yeah, that was my that's kind of like what's been going on, recently. And I still can't get onto the details of why like this, you know stress thing is going on. It's a bit complicated, and I will share once I kind of, well, once I can, and once I got it all sorted. But it was hard speaking with my therapist last week, because all we were kind of talking about, it's how I need to handle stress, and I got um, try and improve things. But then, it's not something that I willingly want to do. It's not. I feel like in some other ways I've done quite well recently at with like looking after myself in other aspects, and I've managed to put a lot of I've managed to put a lot of um, steps in place, I guess, or I don't know how to explain this, but I've done a lot of things that I felt like, look, I'm in control, and I can do it, and then yeah, this just doesn't feel like it. So I had to do the skills that I've been advised to practice for the week were to do regular body scans. That kind of helped, but it was it's just really hard to do it. And the acceptance skill, to accept the situation that I'm in and the things that have happened. And I did that, and that's actually the one that I was telling you about how I feel like I've done incredibly well since everything, like my day-to-day life, or like my work life started. um the acceptance skill was something that I was quite like proud or happy with the way I've used it and handled it throughout. And then the other one was self-care, which was quite hard because in but then it was hard, but then I kind of did it, like I realized that and I think yeah, it helped me figure out what the stress has done to me in the last few weeks. It helped me realize that I need to go and see a doctor, or like I need to go and see someone who can give me some other means, or like some other I can go through some other options. But yeah, it's just hard because how do you explain not being in control of, again, grinding my teeth in my sleep? It's not like I don't force my stomach into being strange with me. I don't um yeah, I don't focus my stomach on or like I don't focus my back. I don't want for my back to hurt. I don't want for my muscles to feel sore. I don't want to feel all this tightness and sweat buckets. So how do you control that when you technically can't? Like I do breathing exercises, when my heart, sorry, when I start sweating, but it has nothing to do with my heart rate. Like I check my heart rate, and it's not going high. It's not going anyway. It's not going higher than how it used to be. And then I also looked at my um I guess like my stats, and my resting heart rate is actually going lower. My walking heart rate is going lower because I work out a bit, and I do all these things to try and better myself. And yeah, look, it's just been awkward. It's just been really weird, and it's been really strange. And I feel like I was holding back a lot in regards to sharing this part of the journey in the last few weeks with you folks. So I'm kind of glad that I did it. Um, the other thing, which I think is a more positive one, but although again, having to go through this while struggling with stomach pain, and having to be near a toilet constantly. I did have my first week at uni, or at least the first few days, and it was quite nice to especially be able to do it remote, so I can just do it from home, and again be in control of my surroundings. Um, it was quite exciting. It made me very hopeful of the future, and I think that's a good thing. But look, I took enough of your time. I'm gonna catch up with you before we part ways for this week. Now, just enjoy the episode with Kimia, and yeah, catch you later. Hello, Kimia. How's it going?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you, love?
I'm very good. I'm just, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's been a while since we talked about having you on, and I'm glad it's happening.
Yes, I'm sorry about last time when I had an emergency appointment come up at
I don't worry about it. I
yeah,
feel like it's been a wild summer for almost, at least like for most people that I know. It's either something personal or health related stuff, or anyway,
yeah,
it's been so surprising.
or even just this heat wave that we don't expect in the UK. And
Yeah, as well as yeah, I agree. I feel like it's been so I don't know, just so strange. I don't know how you found it, but
in
gigging
general,
it's sorry, go on.
yeah, oh sorry. In general, I enjoy it during the day, but at night, I think it's awful when you're asleep. It's sweaty, and I just wish it would be like this in the day and then cold at night.
I know, but this is the thing as well. I found really hard because I had such a long I have like such a I have a history with not sleeping well,
Oh right,
and then now I finally managed to do better thanks to magnesium. I take like magnesium supplements, and I found that it really helps with my sleep regulation. But the thing is that
oh
now after I've managed to sort that out,
yeah.
this heat wave is coming, and then I have broken sleep because I wake up all sticky and just like uncomfortable because of how hot it is. So
Oh,
yeah.
so magnesium. So I've heard really good things. So how do you find that if you want to go into detail? I've just heard good things, but I've also heard of the side effects of like maybe more frequent toilet visits and
I wouldn't know because I feel like the thing is I take some like probiotics. I think they are called.
okay,
So I do like luckily that helps me with like digestion.
yeah,
So I do go like more. I guess not more frequent, but I do go often to the toilet anyway.
uh-huh.
I wouldn't say that I've noticed any side effects, luckily.
No,
But I also noticed that I had to change the strength of magnesium because when I was on like lower strengths,
yeah.
I felt nothing. Like it was as if I didn't take it,
Oh well,
While now I can't remember exactly the dosage, but yeah, like whatever I'm taking now is like two tablets, one in the morning, one in the evening,
uh-huh.
and it seems to work. It seems to help me better. But again, it's just that now after I had like 2 weeks of good sleep, this new heat wave came, and
Oh.
like this morning I couldn't sleep until 2, woke up at 7, and then fell asleep again at 8, and woke up at 10.
Oh, well, I hope your sleep improves because it's so frustrating just as soon as your sleep sort of gets into a normal pattern and the weather's like, hold my beer.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. And then I don't know what it's like for you, but if it changes. I've noticed that when I don't sleep well, it just changes everything about my day.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, that's part of the reason when I asked, like, can I keep my video off? Like, last night was not a good night. And then hay fever doesn't help. Do you have hay fever?
Um, I used to. I think sometimes it gets triggered, not as much at the moment.
Oh, oh, that's good.
Yeah, but I'm also taking something for migration. Migration. Oh my God, sorry, migraine. Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't change the migration. No, the migraines. Yes.
I mean, it's
So I.
relevant. We've both migrated at some point, so.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably my antidepressant medication that's
Oh,
helping with. No, I was just. But yeah, no, I'm taking something for migraines, and I feel like that sometimes helps with the hay fever as well. But
okay.
it's weird. I usually get it if I get it. It's around the springtime for me.
Oh, right, okay. So,
Yeah, so I think the first wave of like blossoming flowers and stuff like that really gets me.
and then by summer, you're immune.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I know there are like people who either have it all year long or it
yeah.
starts now in the summer.
Oh, yeah, no, it's frustrating, but it's good when it's under control.
True.
Yeah.
How's gigging been for you?
Yeah, so I've not really been doing as much recently. I don't know if it's because telling myself, okay, it's summer, like, as we discussed, like another time, it might just be that not many people are going. Like I had one that I was going to do and it got cancelled. Another one I did, which had a good turnout for the audience, but that was sort of like the first week of July. And I'm looking forward to the Women in Comedy Festival in October. I've got a show that I'm splitting with another comedian for that. So I'm sort of thinking, right, I need to get back on it before not that there's any risk I'll completely forget my set, but before I somehow get rusty or something.
I see it. I mean, I understand it because I feel like it's nice to keep it going,
Yeah.
and to get some, like, what do you call it? It's almost like you're training for that.
Oh,
Not training, but you just kind of like keep your, like, warm yourself up
yeah, yeah,
for it.
definitely. There's a lot
Is it the
of
first?
muscle
Sorry, go on.
memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and because that's the thing. Like, when you do you change much when you, like, as a comedian, like, you on stage and you off stage, does it change much, or are you the same person, the same energy?
I'd like to think that I'm the same, but probably I'm not like 100%. Like it is definitely a persona that I adopt on stage, but it's like a heightened version of myself. Maybe it's like me after a few drinks, but not in like a weird way.
You know.
Just like confident to be as dramatic and what I hope is funny as I can be. Whereas day to day, I'm sort of just not always at that level. That's my heightened level of like overperforming, if that makes sense. And a lot
It
of the
does.
time, I've always wondered, am I an introvert or I'm definitely not an extrovert, but between introvert and ambivert, I'm sort of not sure because I'll have one like really social day of seeing friends or family or even doing comedy. And then I'll need a few days just sitting by myself, like watching series and reading and like not talking to anyone. So I call it like defrosting.
I've never heard of ambivert before. I have no
Oh,
idea what that
yeah,
is.
so it's a cross between introvert and extrovert. So whereas introvert is obviously more like enjoying your own company, and
Yeah.
extrovert is always wanting to be surrounded by people. Ambivert, I don't know when it was coined as a term, but it's sort of somewhere in the middle, so that you enjoy other people's company, but you can't have it 24/7. You need some time away from that to just sort of recharge the social battery. So probably I'm ambivert because when I'm around people, I'm really happy. But if it goes on for more than a few hours, I just think, oh, I just need to get away and sit by myself and not talk to anyone.
So how do you find that in the days when you have to say you have to do a gig, and that, say, I don't know, you woke up, for example, and you're like, oh God, this is not a good day for socializing. Does it, like, yeah, how does that feel for you if you've ever been in that situation?
I have to really sort of mentally prepare myself, and even just like planning ahead, like if I've already got four, not even just gigs, maybe one gig and maybe like three other sort of outings with friends like next week, for example. And then for the fifth day, which I had nothing planned, someone's like, oh, should we do this next week? I'll just be like, I'm sorry, I can't. And unfortunately, sometimes I feel bad, so I don't just honestly say like, look, my social battery by then will be completely drained because I worry about judgment because of my anxiety. So I'll say something like, oh, I'm busy that night, sorry. But really, it's to avoid being out or doing something every day because I need at least some days at home per week to not feel completely drained, like physically and mentally, because of my mental health issues, and then physically because I suffer from fatigue ever since I had cancer. So I just, yeah, I know my limit, and sometimes I'll make plans for every day, but then when it comes to the day, I'm like, I really can't, and I have to tell whoever it is, please can we postpone, or I'm ill, or I really can't come out tonight, or whatever.
Which is fair enough. I feel like again, you gotta put yourself first sometimes, and I think this is only like so much planning ahead that you can do, and sometimes you can just like be in the day and you're like, I can't, like
Exactly.
this is way too much, or
Yeah.
fair enough. But then when did you actually two questions, but I'll start with the first one. When did you um start doing comedy?
So it's a bit of a funny story in that the first I went to a weekend workshop in 2019, and then that included doing a showcase at the end of it. So that was summer 2019. I did that, and then I went off to teach English in China, and then came back, and it was a pandemic. So I sort of did nothing at all again until 2022, when in spring I started another course which was longer. It was over sort of several weeks, like one day a week, and then it included a showcase. And then from there started doing sort of open mics here and there, and then getting like booked for like 5 minutes and then 10 minutes, and then sort of just built it up from there really. But to say that I started in 2019 would sound like I've been going regularly since then, which is not the case. There was a 3-year gap of doing nothing after the very first one, and I think it was just always really a bucket list sort of thing. Like, maybe I'm in my head I'm funny, like hopefully hopefully in other people's heads as well. And what have I got to lose? Like, just this perspective that cancer gave me, that like, you have to seize the day, and if we don't try it, maybe we'll reach the age of like whatever on the deathbed and think, oh, what if I could have become the next big comedian? Or even not, even if it had just been like, I'll do this one-off gig, put myself outside my comfort zone and do something that scared me, because I was always shy as a child. Then at least I've done that and I can be proud. There's no like expectation that, oh, this can become my full-time job or can make like a big living from it. And yeah.
But you were saying that you were like shy as a child, but then did you have any? Were you a creative kid? Like, did you like any, or like, what do you like, again, like an artsy kid or anything like that?
Oh
Or
yeah, definitely. Like, I started reading and writing at like a really young age, and was just always reading as much as I could, and then writing my own like books, and
no way.
not, well, books in inverted commas, like what's something that a 4-year-old can write. It's not not book by any publishable standard, but and then started writing poetry. And I know it's like a cliche of like, oh, a lot of teenage poets and whatnot, and yeah, just sort of kept that creativity with writing for a long time. But then, because I was shy, I never thought that I could do something like comedy or acting. But then, obviously, with the cancer giving me that sense of, okay, we're all going to die at some point, whether from cancer or unexpectedly. I also do acting now as well, which if I'd have told like the 11-year-old or even 16 or 18-year-old me, I would have thought, like, fuck off, no way.
But that is true. Like, it's fascinating to see how, like, this side of like how it felt for you to then change, not change so much, because I guess again, like, the passion was always there, it sounds like, or again, you always had an outlet, or no, you always had this like creative side, but to showcase it even more, because just like you said, you would beat yourself up if you didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it just sounds wonderful. But then, what sort of poetry were you? If like, just topics wise, I guess. What was your like style of choice, I guess, or what was it like what you were drawn to the most?
To be honest, probably, like, I don't know, is this embarrassing or not? Probably embarrassingly, it was whoever I sort of fancied at the time, which changed quite often. but writing writing a poem about them and how in love I was and whatnot. And it turned out it's just teenage hormones, and it wasn't love; it was love. Yeah, I wish I'd written about more diverse topics like nature and whatnot, but in that sort of teenage period, it was sort of just all feelings and things. But now I do actually write now, and it's a lot different to what it was then. So one of my poems that got published in a few anthologies is about the experience of being Iranian British and how I've always felt sort of between these two cultures, never completely one or the other. And yes, so I've moved on from the sort of temporary fancy. Not there's anything wrong with that, but it's just I don't know if I can fall in love anymore. No, really.
But also, I feel like that teenage, like at the earlier the age, everything feel. I think things feel so much more different,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
while I feel, I don't know, I'm trying to kind of think about my. I don't think when I was a teenager I even like have had a sense of like belonging or like who I am or
Oh yeah. 100%.
anything like that. Everything was like, yeah, today I like one thing, tomorrow I like another,
Yeah.
then I like another, then I do something else. I think I at one point I thought I'm gonna become a rapper, and it didn't happen.
Oh right. Nice to see that creativity has sort of different outlets, because if you think about it, rap is, writing is a big part of it, and then comedy and
I didn't. I was only enjoying a lot of. I just because I loved. I think I just like. I don't know what was it like for you, but to me, to be in Romania and like to discover YouTube, it was incredible. And then I think I got into, at the time it was like Akon and Eminem and 50 Cent and stuff like this, and you're just kind of like watching, and you're like, again, I had no idea what the lyrics said. Like I wouldn't understand, but I was like, oh my god, this looks so cool.
yeah.
I wish I was. And then you kind of go from that to, oh, I think I'm going to be the new James Bond.
Yeah.
And and all sort of things like that. But did you were you born, because you were born here, right?
No, I was born in Iran.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I was a baby when we moved over, so I don't have any memory of living there because I was just a few months old. But I've always sort of grown up speaking Persian as my mother tongue, and very much like Iranian culturally, but then not completely when compared to those who are more sort of culturally. I don't know how to explain it really. There's times when I feel too Iranian, and there's times when I feel like I'm faking it, which I'm not. But it can feel like not belonging to either Iranian culture or British culture, and yet being both.
I think as I don't know, in my in the like my experience, and I don't know if that's how you mean it, or if but I do sometimes feel like, as much as I love say like one thing about like either my growing up or like my culture, sometimes I find something that I'm like, oh, actually I'm not on board with this at all.
Yeah.
And then that's what sometimes throws me off. And I think same as you, for a very long time, actually a little bit slightly or somehow different, for a long time I was angry at my, say, culture, like upbringings, and I was very much like, oh, I don't like this, why is this happening?
Yeah.
While now I just realize, actually, I love it. There are parts that I don't like and parts that I don't agree with, but it doesn't, the fact that you don't agree and like you've kind of made you are your own person,
Yeah.
it still doesn't change the influence that you have.
Exactly.
Or the way, the way you feel about things, for sure.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, I can see the faults with both cultures, and in some ways I wish this culture would be more like that one, and in some ways I wish that one would be more like this one. I think I'd like to say I'd pick the best of both, but I don't know whether that's the reality if I do actually.
I think this is the most important thing to do. I think is to just acknowledge that there are all those differences, and you have to make what you feel like it works best from both. Rather than, again, you can't. I don't necessarily. I'm not no fan of people who are just like, oh, I'm like a ride or die for this thing. It's more of a,
Exactly.
this is the thing. These are the things I like. This is what I don't like. This is why I don't like it, and I think it should be done better or whatever. But you don't. I don't think it makes. Sometimes when I think about like being in Romania, I don't think that not accepting some of the things that are happening
Yeah.
in Romania doesn't make me less Romanian, because I love the country. And if anything, the only reason why I feel so strongly about something is because of how much I care
Yeah.
about the bigger picture.
I completely agree. It's because you want your countries, both this one and that one, to be the best that they can be. So if I say something critical of either one, it's through a place of like caring, not just critical for the sake of criticizing, but because I want them to be better and I want these to be better. And yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, I think I got into this thing where I generally like I embraced even like I embraced England a lot, and I get to the point where I'm like, no, I want things to be the best possible here, not just because I live in here now, it's just because I feel like this is home.
Yeah,
as well as my home back in Romania, but also like this is also home. Like you can have two homes easily,
true,
and
true.
you
Me
can
too.
care for those two. But wait, so did you? Because when you when your family moved here, did you you were raised in Manchester?
Yes, yes. So it's a bit of a like complicated. Like we were on the way to America, but because
No way.
my dad was Iranian American, and then my mum and dad sort of it just led to the split, and I was like one or two, and we just didn't end up going. So he went, but we stayed here, and to this day I've never been to America, and
No way.
yeah, yeah. So that's how Manchester became home, because my uncle was here. He was usually living in London, but was in Manchester for a while. And when people ask me, so how come Manchester? So it was actually meant to be, Los Angeles or San Francisco or whatever. And then maybe not those, but maybe London. But no, Manchester. Now I just feel really Mancunian. I can't imagine it any other way.
But do you have any siblings?
I've got 7 half siblings that I've never met. They're from my dad's first marriage, because there was a big age gap. He was quite a bit older than my mum, and I've never met them. And I didn't grow up a lot with like seeing my dad. I saw him like maybe fewer than 10 times, and then he died during COVID, so I wasn't close to him. It was always just me and my mum.
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry to hear about that,
Oh
because
no, it's fine. I'm used to it.
I feel in one sense I kind of I've never met my like biological dad,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I don't really feel.
I'm sorry to
Eh,
hear that. Or like, would you say that you're sort of at peace with it?
yeah. I feel like the people who I actually like miss, for example, now are my mom and dad,
Mm-hmm.
as in like the people who raised me, and
Yeah, yeah,
they are the ones that I kind of like. Again, I do feel sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, it's a bit, but I feel like sometimes it's hard to actually talk with people about it, because at least I kind of I get that sense of what's the word, pity,
yeah.
where people are, oh no, and I'm like, no, it's not that, like it's not that bad. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the two people who I miss really are my mom and dad, who passed away, but they are also the ones
I'm sorry. Yeah,
who raised me. Is not someone who, again, I feel like biologically,
yeah,
like biological parents and things like that are obviously important, because we are them to an extent,
yeah, yeah.
but it's not that, like, again, they don't make those memories, like, I think you obviously to feel the way you feel about your mom, that's very valid. And then if you're, oh well, again, you know who's your, you know your dad is, and again you met him a couple of times, or a few times,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
hopefully it was beautiful interactions. But it's, yeah, again, sometimes you're like, yeah, I'm
I
over it,
wish
or
they
like,
were beautiful, but perhaps not so much. I mean, not bad, but I just never had that sort of father-daughter relationship, and I used to call him by his first name rather than dad. And when I was 16, I changed my surname to my mum's name because I just thought, this is me. I've always felt like I only know my mum's family. I've never met anyone on that side until that point. I mean, I have since, but
yeah.
sometimes DNA isn't everything. So even though I have 7 half siblings, I've not met them. So in my mind, I'm just an only child,
Yeah, which is again very very fair point. And I think even the one about the name changing, I actually, for comedy and like career I use my mom's maiden name,
Oh, right.
because I feel like so much more connected to her. And I always have this idea in my head that if, say, for whatever reason something good happens to me and I get to, for people to know me, I'd rather have them know me as Lupu than as my actual birth name, like birth last name, because I don't have a connection to it.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same. So growing up and in school, I was always Etemadi, which is my mum's surname. But until I was 16 on my passport, it was actually my father's surname. So when I was 16 and changed it by deed poll, it was just becoming the Etemadi that I've always been, to be honest, because I never went by my dad's surname anywhere else. I mean, because it was my mum who raised me, so why should I have his surname, if that makes sense?
No, of course, it makes so much sense, and it's so true. Yeah, I feel like, and I'm sure what has she seen your? I mean, I'm sure she's been to a few of your comedy shows.
Oh yeah, she's been to quite a few. Like sometimes she's wanted to come, but most of the time I've dragged her along. Because I'm so open with her that she just knows everything about my life. So it's not like, oh, I don't want my mum to hear this, or this is too rude, or this is, no, she just knows everything. We've always been like, I know it's cliche, but two best friends. So from a young age, I have always told her everything. So it's not shocking for her to hear some of the more shocking things that I say in comedy, if that
But
makes sense.
it does, and I feel like that's just so beautiful, And I'm also thinking about like what it must have been like for her to, basically like grow up with you, and be, or like you two like being together throughout this whole journey. And I feel, yeah, I'm sure it sounds amazing.
I think, like, obviously, she's my favourite person in the world, and she's the only person who really knows me. I mean, I have a lot of like family and friends I love, but the one who really knows me is her. And I would say, yeah, she knows everything about me. So I don't know why I waited until my early 20s to come out, because, I could have done it a lot earlier, but waited until then. But she was just so nice and supportive that,
No way, that's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
And that's still, I feel, wow, that's amazing though, because I don't know, I just feel like I think, because were you, I guess, brought up in like a uh, conservative background,
No,
or
no, not
very
at
okay?
all. No, I was
Oh,
raised atheist. So my mum was a political activist in Iran, and she
oh wow,
political prisoner. She was against the Islamist regime that we currently still have, and she was a political prisoner for 4.5 years. Her first husband was executed, just because they were left wing activists. And
no way.
yeah, so that was her first husband. And then later on, after a few years of being widowed, she met my dad and wanted a better life, to leave Iran. And yeah, so I've always grown up with politics. I've always grown up with like a liberal outlook. Like we've always been we're just very secular. The only thing we ever did as a family that could, but even not in a religious sense, since we moved to England, we started doing Christmas, and that was it. It wasn't in a sense of, oh, this is like a religious holiday. It was, let's become more English. So we always had the most Christmas decorations in the neighborhood, even though we were the only like non-Anglo-Saxon. But then when I was 16 and I became interested in Judaism, and like my mum, she's like very militantly atheist. She's like, how can anyone believe in any religion? It's 2024. But she just always said to me, you can be whatever you want to be, and if you're not harming anyone, then you be you. So she's ended up with like someone very different to herself, because she's like allergic to any kind of mention of God or religion. But and it was nice to have my Jewish identity. And then a few years after that, when I started going to synagogue for age 16, I found out, oh, I have Jewish ancestry, so this makes sense. Like, why did I become so interested?
Oh wow! So what was it? What was that like for you?
So when I
Like, how did you came over? Came over? Yeah. How did you find out about that?
So when I was 16 and started going to synagogue, and I said, yeah, I want to convert. And then the rabbi, not straight away, but like within a couple of years, he said, like, well, it could be that you have ancestry, because a lot of people that become interested in sort of the Jewish religion or culture have some ancestry. And I just thought, no way. I think, being Iranian, most ancestors were Muslim, although we've been atheist for at least 2 generations, because even my mum's dad was like not atheist. He didn't like the current form of any kind of organized religion. And what was I saying? Yeah. So I looked into it and I asked my grandma, who was alive, who was from Kurdistan. Kurdistan being in, Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. And she asked her sister, who was alive, and they were like, yeah, our mum was Jewish. I was like, what? You could have told me. So it turns out my mother's mother was Jewish, which makes me already Jewish. But because I don't have proof of it, I still needed like the conversion route, because I can prove it via DNA tests. They come back Jewish, but that's not enough to like establish a sort of connection to be considered properly Jewish. So yeah.
And I think it's good to what I liked and I found very interesting about this the access to like Judaism routes is that you kind of although you have the background there, you again not growing up in the traditions or the understanding of the traditions. I actually found it really interesting to do as well, because I was like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't know about this. It's like all so new.
Oh, so you went through the same sort of.
I did. Yes, I actually I am still doing it. It's a bit harder at the moment because of
Oh,
like my.
wonderful! Me too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the thing. I'm still because I'm still learning about it, and it's amazing.
Same.
But yeah, it's wild. I feel like when I found out from my mom, about our like ancestors, I was like, what? This is just mind blowing,
Wow.
Yeah, and you're kind of. But this is incredible though, because I think your mom sounds like amazing. I
No.
want to use the term like badass. To
Thank you. Yeah.
do all these things, and then to also like be. And now I feel like it makes, not to say that it makes more sense, but it kind of like I kind of see a lot. I think I see a lot of that, on you and as well, and the will to like fight your fights and to
Thank
push through things and stuff like this, because it's something that I feel like, again, sometimes you have to see it from people around you to have it like embedded in you.
Yes, well, thank you. Well, I hope so. I mean, I've always wanted, without sounding like awfully cheesy, like a better world, and it's just for everybody. And I don't discriminate between anyone or anything at all. And just, I say, live and let live. I just want the
Yeah.
best things for all of us, and whether that is politically or culturally or whatnot. That's why I want change in the Middle East, and that's why I won't, stop talking about it. That I just want all of us to be the best that we can be. And it's not to say that things here are perfect in terms of, gender equality or LGBT rights or animal rights or anything, but at least we're getting there eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, I feel like to kind of stay on a higher, to feel like you're on a higher step of the ladder when you're trying to make things somewhere else work, it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you that it's important to see that there is work for everyone. Like I feel like the concept of like, oh, this is the best country, or like this is the best culture, or this is the best whatever, it's not really. I don't think I think it's not. I don't personally think it's healthy.
Exactly.
I think it's more to say that, look, we are better in this way,
Mm-hmm.
or like at these things. However, there are so many other flaws here, or like these are our flaws. I think in regards to, and I always thought about, like, again, sense of longing in general.
Yeah.
To be very open minded about it, because I think that the quicker you realize what your falls are, the quicker you can work on them and make it better.
Mm-hmm.
While if you don't acknowledge it, you just, again, you're ignoring something that's there, and it's clearly there, and it's clearly a problem, or it's clearly not working, and it's never going to be fixed.
Exactly, and we can all be better. Like, nobody's reached, no country, no person has reached sort of perfection, and these things, when we go on about them, it's not a case of like what's the word, virtue signaling or whatever. It's just that we want to improve every day and have better generations in the future, and not destroy the planet.
Well, yeah, and that I agree with that. I think it's such an important thing to think about. But well, coming back to you, because I'm very curious about this. So you were again, you were talking about coming out in your early 20s, but then we talked about how, like, you're I guess fighting a fight as well with with your anxiety. And the OCD, which I'm really curious to know about, like how, like what's your journey with that?
Oh yeah, so my OCD and anxiety started, although I didn't know it at the time, when I was in primary school. So when like between my mum and dad, there was a sort of custody battle, and I found out about it, and I started worrying that I'm going to be taken away from my mum, and it resulted in frequent hand washing and just like, I wouldn't say panic attacks, but definitely hand washing and OCD behaviours. And then they got heightened in high school, and this was due to a mixture of things, hormones, and in school I was always bullied, not knowing how or where I fit in. And eventually hand washing became more, it became like longer showers and just always washing myself. And it really hit its peak when I was 15, before my GCSEs. I was so worried that I would do badly in my exams that everything just, there was a point where I couldn't leave the house, and everything from school I felt was dirty. So would have to leave all like the school books and things at the door, go and shower, and then not touch them again. So it was like I couldn't even revise. I couldn't, because everything that had been in school was contaminated. So I started seeing psychologists and psychiatrists. Since the age of 16, I have been on antidepressants, and I still am. It was sertraline and then fluoxetine, and now sertraline again. And unfortunately, I still have, the obsessive compulsive disorder and anxiety disorder, but I've found ways to not be ashamed about it. So a few years ago, I wrote an article for the Huffington Post detailing, how it is in my mind, how I see like everything as contaminated. And I'm not just like, people say, oh, I'm so OCD, and it's just like, oh, they have this preference of like lining something up. I'm like, no, that's not OCD in itself. It's not that I'm gatekeeping. We can all have traits of it, but it's when it takes over your life, like it has with mine and with others, and even reaching the point of feeling like suicidal, like not having acted on it, but there have been many, many times. And then it got heightened again when I got diagnosed with cancer when I was 21. And just, I've always had a phobia of hospitals. So because it was like stage 4, 50-50 whether I'd survive or not, I was in hospital as an inpatient for 5 months. So every time that I
Oh
would
God.
vomit, or, sorry for the details, shit myself
No,
or
no, please do.
whatever,
Yeah.
I would have to have a shower, and yet I had no energy, that I would faint on, do it all over again. So I suffered more with the OCD than the actual cancer. I was like, look, if I'm going to die, then okay, but can I please have a nice shower? And one time I took out all of the IV stuff, like just pulled them out of me and said, I'm going to have a shower, because if I don't feel clean with all of these in, I need to have a shower with nothing attached. And yeah, I would come out, faint, vomit, repeat. It was just such a horrible
Wow.
time. And then when I got better, I felt really lucky to still be here. But I do get survivor's guilt a lot, because there were a lot of people younger than me on the same ward who sadly died. And in my worst moments, I always think, I should be dead. They should still be here.
I feel like that's such a terrible, or like such a sad, not terrible, but like such a sad feeling to have. And it's, I feel like, again, ultimately, it's not our choice with stuff like this. And it's just so, I feel like listening about it it's heartbreaking, but also incredibly like powerful,
Well, thank you.
because no, that's okay. Because I just feel like, it just so, I found something in the, especially I think in the last I think in the last, at least I want to say maybe year, where words are losing power because of the misuse.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about something that you said earlier, when you were like, oh, when people go, oh, I'm just like OCD like that or whatever. And I'm like, this, for someone who's like having your story, or someone who knows your story, or someone who understands how actually like impactful living with it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I agree with that bit that you were saying earlier, with like, it's not about gatekeeping, but it's
Yeah.
just using the right, again, just educating yourself and using the right I guess phrase, words, preference, whatever it is, but
Yeah.
not to diminish someone else's story. But it's just, it sounds so it just sounds in, incredible, like everything that you kind of like been through. Because, and what was it like when you at like 50, I guess at 15, basically,
Yeah.
just to go back a little bit, where you um how was it for you? Like, how did you feel about opening up about like what you felt about, like what was happening with you?
I was so ashamed, that I was always trying to hide it from friends and family. The only person who saw it and who sees the 100% extent of it is my mum. And I still have that shame and I hide sort of bits of it, but I'm more open about other things. So some things now I will comfortably say, sorry, I can't do that. Or no, I have severe OCD. I don't want to do that. Sorry. Whereas back then I would, out of shame, put myself through things that I really did not like and then suffer because of it. So even though in my logical brain I know that mental health is nobody's fault, you know, it's just like we wouldn't blame someone for something that happens to their physical health, we shouldn't for mental health. But with myself, I've always been a harsher critic. So if someone else is struggling with OCD, depression, any other thing, I'm so much more understanding of them. Whereas I hold myself to this higher extent of, oh, I have to be perfect. Oh, I can't let slip that I'm struggling. And I think there's definitely a stigma in that. Sometimes when I've spoken about it, I worry, what if people think this is attention seeking? And, you know, when I had cancer, everyone was visiting and wanted to know about it. But when I'm struggling, that I feel like I want to kill myself or I can't leave the house. And then suddenly it's not the done thing to speak about it. And nobody, like, maybe they'll be sympathetic, but they might think, oh, just snap out of it. Whereas no one would say that with cancer, even though the brain is as much a body part as anywhere else.
Of course, and it's such an influential body part as well. And you know, you were saying earlier about how again the difference between, and also I found it in myself as well, the difference between how I treat other people that are, say, talking about their again like struggles than how it is with my own struggles, because I do find myself in the same position where at times I'm just the harshest person with myself, while with someone else it's just, I think it's just so much easier. And it's, I don't know if you, I mean, I'm pretty sure you might have heard about it, where, you know, it's kind of like you have to treat someone else, to treat yourself as if you're someone you care about.
Exactly. Yeah, 100% agree that we should.
I still struggle.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I still sometimes I find it when I get really annoyed or something happens and I'm like, this is so frustrating. I'm like, oh, treat yourself as if you're someone that you care about. And then I'm like, no. And then I have to almost fight that fight to then go back to the original problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's really strange. And
it's that we constantly have to learn to be kinder to ourselves. And it takes a lot of sort of reprogramming and unlearning things that we might have learned or picked up in the past, and just being more sort of generous in every aspect about ourselves, whether it's a mental illness or looks or whatnot.
But then, sorry, go on.
I look back at photos of me when I thought I was like the fattest person in the world, and I look back now and think, I wish I looked like that. That is not fat. Why did I think I was the fattest, ugliest person ever? And you know, we're just so harsh on ourselves that it's really upsetting.
I think, but I also think that the body image side, it's also again, and I don't remember where I've read this, whether it's scientifically backed or it's just someone's opinion that I've read, but it was something to say that people who have any sort of like disorders are more likely to struggle with their like, I guess, what's it called, the acceptance part of like their physical physical acceptance, or no, it wasn't physical. Anyway, you see, I can't remember the precise, but it was something to say that when you have a disorder of any kind, or like when you have any sort of like mental health problems, it affects massively the way you look. Because I look at people now, for example, where I'm, you know, it's so much easier to be kind and to be accepting of someone else. But then when it's about, I feel like I have this thing sometimes where I go past the mirror and I'm just like, oh, while
I think we're all like that, and it's upsetting, really. Like, maybe some of us more than others, but if only we could see, like, the beauty that others people see in us, if that makes sense, without sounding like some kind of Valentine's Day card or something. Because
no,
other
even
people will tell me, "Oh, you look really nice," and I'm like, "No, I look like shit, but thank you." But I want to reach a point where I'm like, "Okay, thank you," and just accept the compliment rather than be like, "No, you're wrong."
just be like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm aware. But I also feel like we are. I don't know. I feel like in combining that with living and being, I guess, raised in England,
Mhm.
it's such a hard thing to do because I always find that every time someone compliments me in English, I have to either reply by disagreeing with them or having to compliment them for something else.
Yeah, yeah.
While I found it only recently that when I speak with someone in Romanian, if they compliment me, I'm like, yeah, thank you.
Oh,
While in English, the first thought is, no, that's not true. Or, oh, well, your glasses look nice as well, or whatever.
oh. That's true. They have found that we have different personalities in our different languages and cultures, which I think is definitely true. There's a lot of things I would say in Persian that my English person wouldn't say.
But the thing about that as well, to learn Persian as well, like alongside with English, and then I guess because you'd speak Persian with your mom growing up, and then with your family, right?
Yes, yes. So I still very much bilingual. So I didn't I didn't learn Persian. I didn't learn English. I just absorbed both. So the same way that a monolingual person just absorbs or grows up in their language without learning it like a foreign language, I was just absorbing both from basically from the start, really, because Persian speaking at home and then English speaking at school. So I was lucky to have that. So I've
Wow.
always been bilingual, bicultural, and bisexual, I say.
Yeah, you can see a trend.
You can't make me choose anything.
Oh, but it's phenomenal because I also because the language difference is it's massive, right? It's a different alphabet, it's a different.
It is, but it's actually and like I have to sort of stop myself, and if it gets too much, then please tell me to stop, because this is one of my sort of passions is languages. Persian and English are both Indo-European languages, as is Romanian. So even though the alphabet
Ah,
is Arabic, it's not from the same language family as Arabic. Arabic and Hebrew are from the same language family, even though they have different alphabets. They're both Semitic languages, whereas English, Persian, Romanian, most European languages, with the exception of a few, and North Indian languages like, Hindi, Punjabi, Urdu, and all these are all called Indo-European. So actually, Romanian, Persian, and English all come from the same language ancestor, which is why
no way.
we have so many words that are similar, such as words for like mother and father and these kinds of basic words. But of course, with the sort of Islamic takeover of Iran, or what used to be Persia, the Arabic alphabet was adopted, but linguistically it's much closer to English and Romanian than, for example, Arabic and Hebrew. But then we have so many loan words from Arabic because of 1,000 years of influence that I can dip in nicely to Arabic and Hebrew and be like, oh, I know this word. So yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So
But how did you get to like what was your when you again you were obviously, like, you were younger, you were studying, you went to like, how did you have the time, and like, where do you find the energy even to learn about so many things? Because in one hand, you're still, you're doing comedy, you're doing acting, you're writing. How did you manage to, I guess,
I think
do all these things while having so much going on for you?
I'm just a really big geek that when I become interested in something, I have to find out everything there is to know about that thing. And one of my big interests, perhaps the biggest interest, is languages. I've learned different ones. So French, I really loved it at school, so I did it for my degree, and then went to live in France for the year abroad. And then since then, Spanish, Italian, and a host of others. And this led me to during lockdown doing ancient Greek and Latin. So it's nice to look at Romanian and be like, when it's written, of course, oh, I understand like half of this. It's basically Latin updated.
Yeah, I had to learn Latin at school, and it was
I bet it was
one of
easy for
the
you.
no, it
No?
was so terrible. No, I forgot it by now.
But yours is the
I
closest language to Latin.
I know, but it's still, I feel like phonetically, not phonetically, even the way sentences were built. I feel like because it was the closest,
Yeah.
it felt worse because if you say you had to read something, you'd read it in a Romanian way. So you had to like I feel like sometimes I find this very interesting with because like, for example, I can read Ukrainian although I don't understand what everything means.
Yeah.
But then I found like Ukrainian and Russian as well, where you're kind of like you're about to, you get amped up because you're like, oh, I got this, I know this, I understand this, and then you have to change it last minute almost in your head. That's where I feel like it threw me off a lot. I don't know an easier way to explain it, but it's kind of like you see something and you're like, this is so close to home that I just can't figure, like, it doesn't make sense to me why I have to change it when it's already so close.
Yeah.
While I feel like, for example, when you have to, like, say, read in Hebrew, or like even I think in English, it's just easier because it's different, but and it's so much different at times. But also at other times, it's just different enough to be like, okay, I get why I have to make a change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so interesting. Like Romanian and Moldovan are Romance languages. Obviously, Romance is within Indo-European, and then you're surrounded by all the Slavic, which is also Indo-European. So, how much Slavic influence do you have that you can understand some bits of Ukrainian, or did you learn it?
I had to because we used to live. So actually, we used to go to Ukraine like almost, I want to say, at least like 3-4 times a week.
All right.
Because I lived so it was kind of like the place where I come from in Romania. It was closer to, say, if you lived in, like, let's say if you lived in Barrie, it was easier for us to go to, say, because if you went shopping in Romania, and I don't know what it was like for you growing up, but like obviously you would have to go to a big city to do like a supermarket, like a cash and carry shop.
Yeah.
So we would go to the shops in Ukraine because it was actually easier for us to cross the border because it was closer. It was like closer to go from Barrie to, say, travel, like go across the river and go to Ireland, than it was to go to Manchester.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's why most of the time, say, like when in Romania or at least not in Romania, because in Romania some people go Saturday shopping, but we didn't go. We would go on Sundays, and then on Sunday shopping, we would go to Ukraine.
Wow.
Because it was, and this is why I've met, like, obviously loads of Ukrainian people. I had to again, and you kind of like go in the shop and something, and you pick up like video games. We used to buy dubbed movies in Ukrainian, or we would buy movies in English, but they only had Ukrainian subtitles.
Oh,
And sometimes you'd have the subtitles on, and you're like, you can guess the words. And I think, again, because it was around that age where I think between when I was 7 to 17, so
yeah.
when I moved here, it was just those like 10 years where it was just easy to know. And I feel like now I can still, read it.
Oh, that's
But
interesting.
this was why I feel like, Romanian people don't know, or don't have to know, the Slavic alphabet, which is very strange though, because I agree with you. I feel like, Romania is the only country there which has Latin alphabet,
Yeah.
but also it was the only uh, is the only Latin country that didn't become Catholic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at it, sometimes you're like,
So Romanian
it's.
Orthodoxy is a bit different from like Russian Orthodoxy, right? It seemed more lenient.
I think so. Yeah, it's kind of like, I feel like it's I want to say almost like a reform version of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like. So yeah, you had the you because also like the calendar, like every like Ukraine and Russia, they use the old calendar,
Oh yes, yeah.
while in Romania we use the Gregorian calendar.
Yeah.
So we actually use basically the same one as a Catholic calendar, with the exception of Easter.
So your Christmas is the same as English Christmas,
Christmas, yeah, exactly.
not
With the
the
fall
same
on
as Russian Christmas.
exactly. While I think the thing is, like, because in the area where I grew up, we had loads of Russian Orthodox
Uh-huh.
people. We at school we had the time off for both, which was amazing for me. Although we weren't celebrating either, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was just nice to have the time off.
Oh, that's interesting because my ex is Russian Orthodox Christian, and my Romanian best friend is Romanian Orthodox Christian. So I have seen some things, and I just noted the difference that in the Russian Orthodox churches, women would sometimes cover their hair, whereas in Romanian Orthodox church, it wasn't a necessity to cover hair. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. There's, like you say, there's a kind of feel of reform.
Yeah, that's how I can describe it, and I think that's kind of it. Like, that's the easiest way to look at it, where it was just it's a more like open mind. Although I always found that when my friends would go to, they would go on Sunday to church, and you had to go from 8 a.m. to 12 or 1
Oh,
p.m. Yeah, I'd be like, no thanks.
yeah.
That was something that I just couldn't get on board.
Yeah.
Although I tried, I remember, because for a while I was like, you know what, I'm going to become a choir, because I tried to become a choir boy. I
Oh,
really,
really? Oh, wow.
yeah, and I thought I would become a musician.
Oh.
And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I genuinely remember joining the choir classes and stuff. And then they were like, okay, cool. So on Sunday, be here at 7:45. And I was like, yeah, that's where you lost me.
Yeah.
I.
Can't be until the early morning of a Sunday.
And the craziest thing is, I lived right next to the church. Like, I would go out of my flat, like, apartment building, and just turn left, and I would be and I was still late.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
To be
was
honest,
still, I
I'm the
would,
same. I'm still not a morning person.
no, I
Are
feel like
you?
all these, no, not at all.
Me neither.
And I think now, I don't know how you find it, but I feel like now, because of comedy, I embrace it even more, where I'm like, you know what? I'm an artist. I wake up late,
Yeah,
and I work late in the night or whatever.
that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, just things like that, which are very. And also, I think it was helpful because it was something that I've only accepted recently,
Yeah.
or maybe, let's say, in the last year or so, because going back to self acceptance, where I was like, no, I gotta wake up at 7 a.m. I gotta, do all these things before I go to work or whatever. And then I just realized regardless of going back to my lack of like good sleep or whatever, but
Yeah.
even when I tried this schedule, it just didn't work. Well, now I can wake up at like 9 or 10, and I am way more productive than I would have been if I force. Although I force myself to sleep at 10 and then I wake up at 7.
Yeah.
It would feel worse for me than actually going to bed at midnight and waking up at 8.
I'm the same, yeah. In the mornings, I'm just not me, and I've never understood how anyone is a morning person.
It's just hard. Yeah, it's hard to comprehend. And yeah, I think it was a nightmare because I grew up next to a school. No, I grew up like my college was downstairs from where I used to live. The church was downstairs from where I used to live growing up. Like everything was just so nicely placed for me, and I would still be awfully like I lied for 2 years in college that I lived in the village where my dad was from,
All right.
just because I wanted to be able to get away with being basically late.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would be
Yeah.
the same. Like, I'm still late everywhere, and I've just run out of excuses, so I'm just going to have to say, look, I'm sorry, this is me.
Yeah, I never book anything before 12.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And one of my friends came up with a good plan. She said whenever she wants to pick me up, she'll always tell me like 6:30, and then she'll be here by like 6:45, so that I'm definitely ready. So
Yeah.
people have to find ways around us.
That's a good plan, and it sounds like that's a good friend as well for helping out.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say, really, I don't know how like relevant this is or not, because before when I was talking about the cancer stuff, and I always worry that people will either think I want sympathy, which I don't necessarily, or that I think of myself as this like warrior, which again is not the case. I feel really lucky to still be here, and when people say like, wow, cancer survivors are just these amazing warriors, I agree for other people's cases, but for me, I just think I was just so lucky that, if I wasn't here and if I didn't have the NHS and if chemotherapy wasn't as advanced as it is, then there was no such thing as me like just surviving it through bravery, if that makes sense. So it's the chemotherapy and modern medicine is the hero, not me. And just to make it lighter, in my comedy I have a lot of jokes about my cancer and a song about it. So this was the serious side. But in my comedy I'm taking the piss out of my cancer, but nobody else's cancer, but just mine, because it just helps me to reclaim like the parts of me that were physically lost or whatever. And
I think coming basically like to reply to you about the everything that you said. I see your point like so clearly, and it's so again. In one hand, I do see why people see cancer survivors as true again warriors or fighters, because it is you gotta pull up a huge fight. And but I also agree with you that if there wasn't for anything else around you, it would have not probably have gone the way that it is now.
yeah,
And but I think your perspective on it, in regards to I see being here as a just a blessing. Just
yeah,
something beautiful, just something that's I'm just glad it happened. That's I think that's actually the most important part of it. To just be like, look, it was terrible. And also I love the fact that you put that into your comedy, because I feel like we need to find. I feel like if you can basically find the make something beautiful out of something ugly or something sad,
yeah,
not say but yeah, sad, then that sad bit feels better,
yeah,
because I found it in from my personal journey, like personal take on this, is that for a very not for a very long time, because I haven't done comedy for that long. But since I started, I've only found that recently I've been able to talk about my parents to the full extent and like make rooms laugh
Yeah.
about the stories and even about losing them, because I've learned now how that I had to deal with it first. I had to make peace with it, and now I moved on, and I was like, okay, you know what? Now I can make fun about it. And I also find that when I address it, like I think on Sunday I had this gig, and when I mentioned that my parents were dead, the whole room just exploded with. First, it was silence,
Yeah.
and then just exploded with laughter. And I think it was one of the highlights of my career as a comedian.
Yeah.
Just to see that thing where they were like, oh, and then they see the little like smirk on my face, and they're like, we can laugh, and then they just went absolutely, yeah, it was beautiful.
It is like such a nice thing that comedy can help you come to terms with things that you might not have been able to outside of comedy, if that makes sense. Like,
It does, yes, and it's so true.
and I just think, we're all here for a limited time, and I try to not take myself too seriously or anybody else too seriously. So I do have days of just feeling sorry for myself for, various things, not just health-wise, and then I think, why not like make a joke out of it, like you say, and then the power is back in your hands rather than these sad things that have happened to you and made life horrible, that have been awful in their own right. But when you have that power to laugh about it, suddenly feels less daunting.
Yeah, I think to have that sort of belief or energy that, okay, now I'm in charge again, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
But sorry, go. Yeah, sorry. Go.
I think we're on the same page with that. It's nice because you're giving the permission to, obviously within a comedy setting. It's not like, in a day-to-day conversation. Obviously, in a day-to-day conversation, if I had told someone I used to have cancer or this or that, and they laughed, I'd think, well, that's not very nice. But then when I'm making jokes about it myself, I want them to laugh. I don't want them to feel sorry for me. I'm like, you can laugh,
Yeah, because it's your journey, it's your story. It's just the way, the way it is, and I agree with you. I feel like when it's I feel like sometimes when you do stuff like this, you just gotta realize. I think no, as an audience, as an audience member, it's important to figure that there is a twist there. Like although something can start like, oh, this is about something really really sad, there. Again, it's a comedy rule. I think it's actually the first rule in comedy that it has to basically it has to have a twist. So just expect for that, rather than just thinking, oh no, you can't, or like you can't laugh, or like this is not going to be a funny bit. No, I think if it's a joke, if it's in a comedy setup, it has to be a joke. So hopefully it's built in such a way to be funny. Otherwise, unfortunately, it's not a joke, which sometimes happens as well with some comedians, where you're like, oh, where is this going? But Kimia, it's been so amazing chatting with you.
It's been a pleasure. I've had a really lovely time. Thank you.
Now, thank you for doing this again. Now, for anyone who wants to stay in touch, check out your work, as well as perhaps, although I feel like most listeners are based in the United States, but when is if you want to remind us, when is the Woman in Comedy Festival happening?
So
and what's your social media?
So Women in Comedy Festival in Manchester is October, and it happens every October to my knowledge, but this year my show is on Saturday the 5th of October at Face Bar at 2 p.m. So if anybody wants to come along, I would be really happy to see you. And my Instagram is Etemadi _Kimia. Should I spell that, or?
It's okay. Will be written down on the bio.
And then Twitter is Kimia Etemadi, just as like one word.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Lev. It's been lovely to talk to you, and hope to see you soon.
Yes, me too. I'm looking. I'm overdue a trip back to Manchester. Or again, when you're in London, let me know. I'd love to hang out.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
So, what did I tell you? I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed recording and then putting it together. And yeah, there was actually one thing that I forgot to mention before the episode started. Um, was to do with watching the "We Will Dance Again" documentary about what's happened at the Nova Festival, in Israel on October 7th, and I think it's a powerful story. And although I have I guess mixed feelings about the documentary, or I think some things would have been um, I would have done some things differently. I can definitely say that it's a story that was worth sharing and um, exposing, the atrocities um, that Hamas is done, and yeah, the way things happen, it's really important, and that's also the reason why I thought I'd mention that it came out on UK, on the BBC a couple of days ago. As in, like, when you listen to this, it came out on Thursday, on the 26th, I think, of September, and that's when I watched it, or like on 27th, on Friday morning, I watched it on Paramount Plus, and yeah, it was heavy, heavy, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just want to let you know that I've seen it, and if you if you're still wondering, why are things the way they are, and why some people feel so strongly about this, give it a watch, because I think, yeah, just the reminder, and seeing the footage from that day, it's just I don't know, I feel like it brought up a lot of anger, and within myself, just with the fact that I wish it was more I could do or could have done to for this not to happen, and just stuff like that. I have nothing to do with it, but yeah, it doesn't mean that it doesn't make me feel bad, and or yeah, sad. But look, I kind of wish I left on a happier note now. But look, this is just the way it is. Sometimes things don't end up in happy notes, so you gotta take it as it is, and you'll hear back from me next week. Until then, from me, Pickle, and Sarma, stay skillful. Goodbye.